But as you said, the key difference is, unlike in the past where the hope would be a Dortmund or a Leipzig who would also drop off, it seems as though Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen are determined to try and stick around, and they showed that this weekend.
They did, and I thought this was it. In fact, I had a report written in the 88th minute, and this is normal, when you decide to. I don't do it often anymore. I do it for the Substack when I'm in stadium because I feel like our subscribers deserve a little bit of extra content. So I do an on the whistle thoughts piece. These are incredibly hard to write at times. I enjoy writing them because it gives you a little bit of an adrenaline kick. But it means that in a game like this one, it's incredibly hard because I had everything written pretty much after Xhaka's own goal that made it 3-1. What an hilarious goal that was too. And that turned out to be a mistake, I admit it, because Leverkusen did come back into this game. But let's start at the beginning here. Some huge changes in this game going in. Sebastian Hoeneß dropped Dennis Undav and Christian Führig, and I was told that was big for performance reasons. In his stead, Demirovic played. Voltemade once again played too. He was my player of the match. I thought he was fantastic. He's such an interesting profile of a player, and we've talked about this a few weeks ago, and I mentioned it in the article. He is, I think, a very unique profile of a player, and one that I think will help Stuttgart going forward. Those two make it 2-0, then Frimpong halves the lead, and then that slapstick Xhaka goal seemingly decided it until Hincapie made it 3-2. And that's when I really should have started rewriting my match report, Stefan. I admit my errors. Then Stiller's own goal in the 30th, in the 88th minute, which really was Boniface forcing it, wasn't it? And then, of course, 94th minute, Patrick Schick. Patrick Schick is the 94th minute guy. I should have known. So, he makes it 3-4, and then Boniface almost makes it 5-3 with his final shot, underside of the bar, ball goes out. It was an insane game. It was absolutely bonkers. It was incredible to be there for it. I've never seen Javi Alonso celebrate like this. He stormed onto the field. You could tell after the 3-2, he was already on the field saying, let's go, let's keep going, let's keep going.
He was already booked before he started.
Yes, he was.
It was Mourinho-esque from him, I thought.
It was. And, they had to, and this was great for me because I had to go back early to the train station. Leverkusen had to get back to the airport to fly home. So they did the press conference early. So there was only a handful of us talking to him after the game. And I asked him, was this now a moment where you're going to keep pushing Bayern? He's like, yeah, like our goal is to keep pushing them. It's not longer in our hands. We have to hope that they drop points. But if they do, we want to be there. And this is the only competition that we have on top of the Pokal, where we only have one game ahead of the final. And our goal is now to win every single game, so that if they show weaknesses, that we're there. And, there was a determination there. And that surprised me a little bit, because I guess he himself said and he said it, our goal is to still win the title. And, maybe a result like that, I still think this is Bayern Munich are going to win it. But it was that old Leverkusen team, wasn't it? That came back, and the never losing spirit seemed to be back. And if they can catalyze that over the last 8 match days, it would be kind of fitting to the Javi Alonso era if they would come back and win the title.
Yeah, it'd be quite something, wouldn't it? And it's obviously where they've put all the eggs in the basket now. We've talked for much of the season about how they've kind of focused a lot on the Champions League. I thought they put most of their focus in the Champions League, and then that's obviously fell apart very quickly against Bayern Munich. So it did look like the old Leverkusen in a sense. They obviously did come back from behind. And they did go on to win the game in truly remarkable fashion. And I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, because this is just the impression I got to watch the game on telly. But I actually thought for the most part they were pretty terrible. I thought Stuttgart were the better team. I thought Stuttgart controlled the game more so than Leverkusen. I thought in the first half, and then definitely second half after Voltemade made it 2, it was a case of Leverkusen just. We've talked about this since Wirtz has actually basically left that team. there's no one that can really hold the ball up front. I know they had Patrick Schick up there, but there's just no presence for Leverkusen in the final third. And it felt to me like a game that Stuttgart more or less controlled possession-wise. I mean, in fact, I'd be interested. I do have stats in front of me in terms of possession. I mean,
they did. They were better, and it wasn't close.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that like Leverkusen obviously just came back, but every goal they scored was like a one-off. You know, Frimpong's was basically a deflection in the box. You know, Hincapié's was also a deflection in the box. Angelo Stiller's was an own goal, which Boniface kind of hits a shot. And it goes in, and then obviously Patrick Schick scores a decent goal, fair play to him. But for the most part, it felt like a game in which Stuttgart continuously kind of pulled that Leverkusen defence apart with just really smart football. You know, and the first goal was a case of Mukiele just not tracking his man. Second goal was Robert Andrich not tracking his man, in my opinion. I thought the third Stuttgart goal was also Andrich not chasing his man. I thought Robert Andrich was dreadful in this game, to be perfectly honest with you. And that Leverkusen backline was just an absolute mess. So I thought they were just quite lucky, to be perfectly honest with you, to actually get away with a point, never mind all three. But you do kind of have to give them credit. And the one player I do actually want to give huge credit to is Jeremy Frimpong. I actually thought Frimpong, from a Leverkusen point of view, I thought was outstanding. He just drove this team on. He just demanded the ball on the right-hand side over and over again. He obviously got a goal. He obviously got an assist. But if anyone in that team was going to play that role of Florian Wirtz, where just get the ball out wide to him, he takes the ball, the team can step up and play off him, it was Frimpong. And I thought he did a really good job of that. But yeah, for the most part, I think Stuttgart should have had steam blown out their ears because they probably can't believe how they managed to lose this match.
Frimpong saw my Blue Sky post saying that he's world class, and except for in passing and shooting. I had to eat those words later on. No, but you know, it was a fascinating match in that regard because I did think that Stuttgart were better until about the 68th, 70th minute, and I think that then Sebastian Hoeneß, and I'm going to just double check the substitutions that he's actually exactly made. I wrote it down in my article. You know, he brought on, so in the 68th minute, he decided to take off Enzo Milot for Dennis Undav, and he took off Leveling for Wagnermann. And after that, the control just started to slip a little bit, right? And the other substitutions were, he took off in the 77th, he took off Demirovic for Touré or El Bilal. And then Armin Dachil got taken off for Julian Chabot in the 77th minute, and then Mittelstadt for Führich in the 89th. And I guess Führich came on to see if Stuttgart could go score fourth and win the game. And I personally think that maybe Sebastian Hoeneß kind of got outcoached here a little bit towards the end of the game. You know, without Milo, the stability in midfield wasn't quite the same anymore. The team was too offensive after those substitutions. And really, what he should have done, he should have shut down the game after the 3-1, right? Like, he should have tried to control the game, circulate the ball, and really just shut it down. And he didn't. It was almost like, because we know the story between Stuttgart and Leverkusen over the last 2 seasons. These games have always been tight. There's been a lot of Leverkusen comebacks. This has been always, I mean, I've seen this fixture now 5 times over the last 2 seasons, and it's always been amazing. You know, it's always been a really good game between 2 really good coaches. But I almost felt like Sebastian Hoeneß is like, okay, we've won this game. Leverkusen are on the ground. I'm going to finally show Harvey, and we're going to make it 4-1 and 5-1, because Leverkusen was there for taking. The defense was shambolic, as you mentioned, right? Like, Stuttgart, every run forward that they made, they almost scored. And I think he almost wanted to prove a point, and he paid for it. That's how it looked like to me. I think he ultimately, it wasn't that he was out-coached, because that would indicate that Javi Alonso knew what he was doing. I think he just, it fell into his lap, because I think Hoeneß wanted a point to prove here, and instead of like maybe taking it conservative, he took it too progressive, and it backfired. That's how it looked like for me watching it unfold. It's one of those really nice press tribunes that are really high up, so you can kind of see it like the entire play develop. And it just looked to me like Stuttgart were just going for it. And we were like, the press tribune is also like in the middle of like where the fans sit, and there was a very vocal group of Stuttgart fans right behind me, and they were like, "What is he doing? Why is he bringing on more attackers?" And then there was one other guy is like, "Let's stick it to Leverkusen, let's stick it." And you could just sense like that Hoeneß was really kind of buying into the second guy's opinion and not the first. And you know, maybe he should have just shut it down, Stefan.
Yeah, and it's something that's kind of plagued Stuttgart for much of the season. I actually checked there, and no other team in the Bundesliga has lost more games from a winning position than Stuttgart this season. The only team who've level with them in that regard are Leipzig, who, as we know, have also been plagued with their own troubles. But Stuttgart have taken the lead in 17 occasions this season. They've only won 10 of them. They've drawn 3 and lost 4 after that Leverkusen game. And, it's. I mean, the funny thing is, I actually predicted Leverkusen to win this game going into the match. I think I said in the previous show, Stuttgart's home form's pretty terrible. Their defensive record at home's not great either. I didn't expect them to take the lead and then do so again in the second half. But I did think over the kind of overall balance of the game, I thought Leverkusen would have the better of them. And, I guess it played out that way in the end. But yeah, the Stuttgart team obviously have their issues. I completely agree with you in the second half. You could definitely tell from like the 60th or 70th minute on, Leverkusen were definitely getting more control of the game, which was really interesting. I don't know if that's because, Adley came on, Boniface came on, Drake went off, who, as I said, I thought had a terrible game. But and then it almost felt like Leverkusen were just kind of slotted into their old kind of mantra of being like, well, we know we can score late on, we know we can always create chances. So, where Stuttgart aren't used to being in this position and did struggle, Leverkusen are used to being in this position and knew that if they just went through the motions, they did what they did in the training ground, they'll probably get a chance to score chances, and sure enough they did. And that was the difference between the two teams, and I guess that just comes down to experience, comes down to both head coaches and their experiences as well. And I'm sure it'll be a learning lesson for Sebastian Hoeneß. But yeah, I can't even imagine the torment and the frustration the Stuttgart fans went through in this game, because it's a worst case scenario. It's a nightmare scenario for any football fan. But it means we still get something resembling a title race.
Well, yeah, no, we do. And Alonso apparently apologized to Hoeneß after the game for how it went down, because like he felt that Stuttgart should have probably won it. But my final thought on this match too, before we wrap this up, is the way the game went forced Alonso to play not with one but 3 strikers, because he brought Adli on too, right? So he had 3 strikers on there, 2 true number 9s, and then Adli is a little bit of a false 9, right? But the moment those 3 were on, Leverkusen looked far better. Frimpong looked better too, because he finally had an outlet. He had someone that he could actually put the ball towards, and there was so many more dangerous situations. Someone asked Alonso about whether that's an option for the future, and it sounds like he's finally come around to the fact that he has two very excellent number 9s in his squad, and that maybe he should use them. And that's been a criticism, right? That he hasn't used them enough, that they've dropped too many points, that they've over-relied on Wirtz. Wirtz is injured. He might be back in 3 or 4 weeks. The international break will help them. But if they maybe it's finally come to the point where they realize that if they want to win games, they maybe have to play both Boniface and Schick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really interesting because, like I said, when we talked about Bayern and talked about their running, I want to talk about Leverkusen's running just before we do finish up, because I do think it is slightly better. They've got Bochum, Heidenheim, Union Berlin, and then St. Pauli. Now, obviously, for those teams, all 4 of them are fighting for survival to one extent or the other. Bochum and Union Berlin have just taken points off Bayern recently, so they're not easy games, but they are games against teams in the bottom half of the table. But then they have Augsburg, Freiburg, Dortmund, and Mainz, which are obviously a bit harder. At which point you would think they would have Florian Wirtz back, but as I said in the subscriber chat, we could be in a scenario where this title race once again comes down to one of these teams playing Mainz on the final day of the season. And unfortunately for Leverkusen, this seems to be their turn. So we'll see what happens there. But, it's probably 4 very winnable games for Leverkusen if they can play their cards right, and then they go into that final stretch in a very tough run. But they'll be up against a Bayern team who will probably I think get past Inter Milan, and up against some Barcelona presumably in the semi-final. So they'll have things to distract them. Leverkusen should have Florian Wirtz back. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how Alonso addresses these Bundesliga games going forward, because unlike up to this point in the season where they've had the Champions League as the clear focal point for them, Alonso's probably looking at these kind of last, 7 or 8 games thinking, right, if we win every one of these games on an individual basis, there's a good chance they could be in for the title race here, or they could be in for catching Bayern. And it'll be interesting to see, because we have seen in recent games, like he's picked random players, he's played with no strikers, he's throwing, backup players who we know aren't good enough into that team because they've had Champions League games coming up or just played Champions League games. You can tell Alonso just didn't really, not that he didn't care, of course he cared, but it wasn't his highest priority. And it'd be interesting to see if from here going on, was like, no, we're getting the strongest 11 each and every weekend. Leverkusen are determined to win these games. And we'll see where we go from here. But yeah, it makes for a very exciting end to the season.
Yeah, as I said many times before, I don't care who's going to win the title at the end of the season. I just don't want it to be decided 2 weeks from now. I want it to be to the very end.
I don't care who wins it. I just don't want it to be Bayern.
No, I don't care. Like I'm fine with Bayern Munich winning it if it's on the final match day. Like that drama we had in that Dortmund season, like, okay, that was worse because like Bayern had that long run and it was here we go again. But like last year, Bayern didn't win it. So if Bayern win it on the final match day in some sort of dramatic fashion, I'm okay with that. Like I have absolutely no problem. I just want drama. I just want something to write about from here to the end of the season. And if the title race is over, there's nothing to write about, right? And ultimately, I think that's what a lot of the neutral fans want. Most neutral fans probably won't care whether it's Bayern or Leverkusen. They just want something excited, something to keep them excited to the very end. So if this goes down to 3 points, hey, I take it. Bayern fans are gonna get nervous. It's fine, but like I'll take it. And if Bayern Munich still win it, that's great. If Leverkusen overtake them somehow, wow, that'd be something to write about too. So yeah. Give me the title race. I'm glad that the results went the way they did. I kind of wish Leverkusen had won against Bremen because then they'd be even 3 points even closer. We'd be at that 3-point scenario already. But let's see. Let's see what happens from here to the end of the season.